Hey everybody, Zach Mitchell here. Time for another rock music discography. Today I'm going to be talking about the legendary Pink Floyd, and I'm going to be showing you all of the albums that I have by them. I don't have everything, but I have the majority of all my favorites, and so I have quite a few. Actually, I'm not even sure how many I have. 13. I have 13. So, how many Pink Floyd albums are there? I don't know. I think if I was a good music vlogger, I probably would have looked this up beforehand, but I don't know. So, I have 13 of their I have 12 of their studio albums and one live album. So, let's get started. The very first album by them that I have is The Piper at the Gates of Dawn. Excellent album. My favorite song on this is probably Astronomy Domin. Okay. Next up, one of my favorites by them, Pink Floyd, Umaguma, or Amagama, however you pronounce it. I'm not entirely sure. I'm American, so Umaguma. There you go. And this is a half live and half studio double album. My favorite song on the live album is probably their cover of A Saucer Full of Secrets, and on the studio album is Sisyphus, or Sisyphus, however you pronounce it. All 4 parts. So, there you go. Next up is Adam Hart, Mother, which has a really cool album cover on there. I like that a lot. And I don't play it that much, but if I had to pick a favorite song, it would probably be the Adam Hart Mother Suite, which is the 24-minute A-side. So yeah, I don't really listen to it that much. It's not one of my favorites by them. Next up is the soundtrack from the film More. I really like this a lot. Probably my favorite song on it is the Nile song. So there we go. Next up is, a lot of people consider this to be one of their best, Metal, which is really, really good. And of course, my favorite song on it is Echoes. I like Fearless too. Fearless is really good. But I gotta pick Echoes, or else a lot of you guys are gonna give me shit. Next up is the very first album that I ever heard by Pink Floyd, and definitely one of my favorites of all time, The Dark Side of the Moon, a true classic. And it's kind of hard to pick, but my favorite song on it is probably Time. Yeah, I'd probably have to say Time is my favorite song on this, although it's really hard to say. I really like Money, which then morphs into Us and Them, which then morphs into Any Color You Like, which then morphs into Brain Damage, which then brings it to a great close with Eclipse. And I really like The Great Gig in the Sky too. And On the Run's really cool too. Oh, what the hell, the whole fucking album's awesome. Another really good album, Wish You Were Here. This is probably the very first song that I ever heard by Pink Floyd. The title track, which is really amazing. But my favorite song on it is Shine On You, Crazy Diamond, parts 6 through 9. Next up is another one of the fans considered to be the best, Animals. And I like it a lot. It's not one of my favorites, but it's still really good. And my favorite song on it is Dogs. So, Animals, really, really good album. And now my favorite Pink Floyd album of all time, and definitely up there is one of my favorites out of every single rock album, The Wall. And this is the plastic case version that I have, unlike all the rest of them, which are paper cases. Definitely one album that I listen to so many times, often, on headphones. And my favorite song on it is probably... See, I'm going to just give you guys a plethora of songs because they all morph into each other, which I think is really cool. So this whole selection here is my favorite on this album. The first is Nobody Home, which then morphs into Vera, which then morphs into Bring the Boys Back Home, which then goes into Comfortably Numb. So all the four of those are my favorite songs on this album. And next up, the very last Pink Floyd album that Roger Waters did, and which I think is really cool because it's just a bunch of songs that they didn't use on the wall. And it's The Final Cut. Not one of my favorites, but it's still really good. My favorite song on it is When the Tigers Broke Free. And last, but no, I still have one more studio album. This is probably my least favorite Pink Floyd album. And it's A Momentary Lapse of Reason. It's definitely not one of my favorites, but it's not a bad album. It's just not one of my favorites. My favorite song on it is probably On the Turning Away. I mean, Roger Waters isn't with him. And to me, there's no Roger Waters. It's not Pink Floyd. That's just my opinion, so don't give me shit. And the last studio album that I have is just a best of, which is A Foot in the Door, the very best of Pink Floyd. I really like that album cover, which is just a kid in a graduation uniform and a hat walking across the albums. I like that a lot. And last but not least, I have a live album, Pink Floyd Pulse, which is David Gilmour leading the way, doing Dark Side of the Moon in its entirety, as well as a bunch of other hits like Astronomy Domain, Shine on You Crazy Diamond, and Run Like Hell, some other stuff too. There was a DVD that goes with this, but I just haven't gotten it yet. I just wanted to listen to the album. I have seen it though. It comes with a little book in between with some pictures from the show. Alright, and that concludes my discography of Pink Floyd, and I would love to know what your favorite Pink Floyd album is, as well as your favorite Pink Floyd song, in the comments section below. And be sure to like this video, because there's a lot more coming of discographies and monthly updates showing you everything that I've got. And I think pretty soon I'll be doing a discography on Bob Dylan, one of my favorite solo artists who I've just recently started to get into lately. So stay tuned because there's a lot more coming. Until then, I'm Zach Mitchell.